Hey guys, I'm going to try to make this brief, but I just wanted to thank everybody who has watched us live on Twitch, who has downloaded the episodes on Apple and Spotify, who has subscribed to our YouTube channel and followed us on Instagram and just engaged with us over the past year. I am super pumped. This is our 100th episode, and it's a great one. It's Chris Caffery and Al Pitrelli from Siberian Orchestra, and it's perfect because it's right around the holidays, obviously. And it just means a lot that they came on to do this with us, and we had a blast with them. True rock stars, absolute legends, and I just thank you everybody for sticking with us all this time. I decided to do Dystopia Tonight because I couldn't tour. And I needed something to keep me sane. And I thought, it'd be nice if I got to talk to everybody I loved and respected and admired. So far, so good. So between musicians, cartoonists, scientists, authors, doctors, did I say comedians? Actors, everybody. It's been a lot of fun. And we made a lot of good friendships along the way. And I hope to make a lot more. And Tom can't be here because he's gigging, I think, right now, and it's also 2:00 in the morning. So I just wanted to thank you, and I hope you enjoy the show, and I hope you'll stick with us for the next 100. Peace.
Dystopia Tonight. Dystopia Tonight.
What's up, guys?
How's it going, man? How you guys doing?
It's good, brother. How are you, Chris? How are you?
I'm good. I just saw Al for the last time in person exactly a week and 2 days ago, and then we headed our way, and he stayed where they were. So, but every day for the two and a half weeks, I saw Al every day, and all of a sudden he's gone. So this was pretty rare for me to see Al during the tour and be talking at the same time, because a lot of times we're both on stage at different places, or he's in a different time zone. And so this is probably in the 22 years of touring, besides the tours we do together, the only time I've had time with Al technically on a tour. So this is pretty cool.
Well, then, you know what? I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to let you guys just talk. That's
there you go. But we would start talking about cooking Italian food. So
is that your road food of choice?
Al, it was when we were on the road with Sabotage, we would get to places and you would have a choice of, what you wanted to do for food or catering. And we would see the list, and Al would walk in, and if there was any kind of kitchen in these venues, he's like, well, can we just replace this catering list with a shopping list? So he would come back with tomatoes and pork and pasta, and we'd all sit there waiting for Al to finish cooking. So,
oh my God, that's gotta be the fucking
freak
best.
at all.
Hey, if you're gonna be a control freak about anything, if it's about food, I wish I had that. I'm always eating garbage when I'm on the road. I need an Al with me to be cooking all the time. That'd be great. Is there
Listen, again, thanks so much for having Chris and I on tonight. I hope everybody back home is healthy and safe and doing the best you guys can right now. And definitely a different world we live in, but at least we're living again.
Yeah, man, I completely agree. How have you guys been holding up during the pandemic and stuff like that? Did you guys find it as frustrating as everybody else did as performers? Were you eager to get back out there and, start making music and stuff again? Or did you find the transition to online stuff pretty easy?
Well, I spent years and years and years and years and years online. So when the COVID thing started, I let the rest of the world take over that. And I kind of took a little bit of time off. I mean, I'd been touring straight for 35 years. Not that I didn't not want to play, but I got to do a few things I never got to do before, to spend some holidays at home. And we had the pay-per-view live stream last year, which for me was like a really good thing mentally, to get back with everybody. And, TSO was almost like we were going to rehearse for a tour, and then we finished and left. So it was like the tour kind of still went on. So there was a lot of things that happened. I definitely missed touring, and when I knew we were coming back again this year, it was exciting. But I think for me, in a lot of ways, it might have been a bit of a rest that after 35 years I might have needed too. So.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people kind of felt that way too. Did you feel the same way, Al? Did you have the same kind of experience?
Well, yeah, you know, listen, I don't want to make light of a horrible 22 months. I mean, there's so many people out there who suffer such tragic loss and,
Sure.
you know, being sick, family members dying, financial problems. I mean, my biggest headache was that I didn't go to work last year, you know.
Right.
So I have zero to complain about. I'm grateful that we're moving in the right direction with this whole thing. I'm grateful that live music is back in a different way, but albeit I'll take it. You know, and I'd come out here wearing a hazmat suit to do my job. You know, brother, it's just like, I love what Chris and I have been part of for well over 25, 26 years now.
Right.
We did a bunch of shows. I look out in the arena, I see a bunch of familiar faces. I see some new faces. I got a Les Paul wrapped around my neck. Life is good.
Nice.
Always, man. I'm going to preface everything with love, thoughts, and prayers to anybody who's going through any hardship right now. You know, my problems are nothing compared to what the rest of the planet's going through. So again, to be talking to you, to be talking about a great tour, what great careers Chris and I both have, collectively and individually, we're all good tonight.
Yeah, man. No, I hear you. I hear you. I feel like, and I agree with Chris too. Like, it was kind of like a reset for a lot of people, you know, for a certain extent too. I mean, there was definitely a lot of horrible shit that happened. There was a lot of, you know, political strife, all that other stuff. But I think we all kind of got a sense of who we were a little bit better too.
Well, I take care of my mom, and my house was built in the early '60s, so I had a lot of time to realize just how much I never got done on my home too. So I was working constantly on music and art and everything, and like Al said, I'm not making any kind of light of the situation because I lost, you know, a lot of friends too. But I spent a lot of time getting prepared for, you know, I was like, wow, I never had this done. And then when storms and things hit as it was going, I was more, I took care of some things that I really, not that I didn't know were problems, but I was home to see them. Because when you tour, a lot of times when things go wrong, you're not there. So it was a full year of me getting to see each season and all the different things. So it helped me with that. So I was able to focus on that and get ready to go back in a healthy kind of way.
How often are you guys, would you say you guys are actually on the road at this point?
Well, we started rehearsing, what was it? Late October, early November, right, Chris?
Wow. Yeah.
You know, we hit the Mid-America Center, scratch our heads. How can musically we make it a whole lot better? Then, you know, 2019, we're always trying to push the bar. You know, Paul O'Neill always said every year we want it to be bigger and better, musically deeper. We're going to bring out some different songs from our catalog. You know, we all collectively kind of scratched our heads and said, okay, how can we take these couple songs, mush them together, you know, really bring it to life in a different way, playing songs we've never played live that are very poignant. I think, to, you know, again, the couple years that we've all shared. It's a lot of fun rehearsing because the East Coast band, what's known as the East Coast band, is on one side of the arena.
Right.
We're on the opposite side. And like when they're on the big stage, we're in kind of like a little, what would you call locker room. We're doing like our nuts and bolts housekeeping, and they're working on the production and where to stand and all that stuff. And then when they go back in the locker room to tighten up their stuff, I'm on the opposite end of the arena on the biggest stage. It's like a bizarre mirror image, you know. And you got to understand, brother, it's grown up since the first show we did in '99. We had a 24-foot box truck, 2 buses, and a fog machine, and we thought it then. You know? Dude, you know, last year when I left Chicago at the Allstate Arena, in 2019, the last show, 21 tractor trailers and 12 buses in the parking lot.
Holy
You
shit,
know, this
man.
thing's grown up like one of your kids grew up and just like, exceeded both mine and Chris's wildest expectations. And all Paul ever wanted was to put on the biggest rock and roll show on God's earth. And, you know, I'm just glad to have a swing at the plate again this year to do that.
Yeah, can you pinpoint a moment in time, like through the whole process, where you were like, "This is holy shit, this got huge"? Did it kind of sneak up on you?
I think for me, and I kind of upset Paul with it because we were playing Madison Square Garden, and I told him I needed to go home because I was living in an apartment in Astoria, Queens at the time. Okay. And he was like, "Well, if you go home, you better take a car service. I don't want you taking taxis. I don't want you on a subway," because he didn't want anything to happen to me on the day we're playing Madison Square Garden. And of course, I am like the kid, you know, who says, "Don't press this button. I have to hit the button." So I took the N train back to the Garden just so I could take the subway to play Madison Square Garden. And I came out of the subway tunnel, and I looked up, and I saw the sign outside of the Garden, which I'd been seeing concerts at since I was 13, and it said, "Tonight, sold out, Trans-Siberian Orchestra." And I was like, wow. That was, I think, for me, that was the wow moment. It was like, okay, well, Paul was right. Because when we first did this record, Paul, this was his vision, what was going to happen with this. And he's so amazing. I've never seen anybody that can make things happen the way Paul did. And we were talking about something one day. I was on the phone to him. In his conversations, like, now when TSO headlines arenas, we hadn't even released the record yet. And he's telling me when TSO headlines arenas. And that's just the focus. And nobody else I know in my life had the ability to be that focused on something and always make it happen. And he was so incredible at that. It's just, he was such a special human being. And we just got to watch him make it happen. And we were all blessed to be, and we're still blessed to be a part of it. But it's just, it's an amazing thing. And like Al said, it just keeps getting bigger. And the shows, I go there and I watch him the last day before we leave. And that's my TSO concert every year. And then I get to see what it is people are going to be seeing when they watch me, because I don't see it from the stage. So yeah. I get to technically.
Yeah, Chris just hit upon a couple of good things. So again, this wasn't, I'm going to use the word normal, but that's not, I don't even know what to say. Okay, so you said, like, when did you have that oh, wow moment, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so every year has been a different oh, wow moment. If you start off in late winter 95, when Christmas Eve Sarajevo hit the radio, it became the #1 requested song in America overnight.
Yeah.
That was a oh, shit moment.
Right.
Right? It was like, yeah, nailed it. And then 96, Paul said, we're going to record Christmas Eve and Other Stories.
Mm-hmm.
Winter 96 goes double platinum. Boom.
Wow.
All right. A couple years later, we do the Christmas Attic album. Goes platinum. Chris and I felt like we were in the Steely Dan of Christmas music. There's no touring. We were just in the studio banging out records. This is awesome, dude. 99, we did our first bunch of shows, sold out, the Tower Theater opening night,
Mm-hmm.
And I've told the story 1,000 times. And this is like when you're playing in TSO and you're at a TSO show, this is what Chris and I see from our vantage point. In front of me was this like 65, 70-year-old couple, like grandparents, whatever. And you know those like crocheted reindeer sweaters that people wear around the holidays?
Yep.
Gorgeous older couple, but right next to them was a dude in a Slayer hoodie. No bueno.
That's so great.
That was head down, play the show, a bunch of Hail Marys. Let's get through this, And after that, we had to cut it into 2 bands.
Wow.
It was one of those wow moments. Then we started doing matinee shows where it wasn't enough to do 1 sold out arena a day. We had to do 2 sold out shows in one day.
Holy shit.
And back in the day, they said, you want to do a show at 3 o'clock? I'm not even hungover by 3 o'clock. I got to do rock show. So this is like literally, my brother, having a child that is just, it's like an AP every course. It's graduating 3 years early from high school. Got a full scholarship to Harvard. It became like the president of the United States. I just every day, every year, I go, oh my God. Every so often, Chris and I will look over our shoulder and kind of smile and go, this has been a great run. But the trajectory keeps going. Paul wanted this to live forever. That was what he said for years. Am I right, Chris?
Oh, absolutely.
He wanted this to live past all of us. And, I see like babies and like, toddlers and, young teens in the audience, like, just loving what Paul created and his family has perpetuated. And maybe, just maybe, this will live long past all of us. And that's the definition of great art. And that's all Paul ever wanted to make.
I remember, I remember when I was a kid, my family having the cassette tapes and then CDs, and then now it's on my, iPhone, basically all your music and stuff. Like, it's just a part of Christmas. It's just a part of the whole experience. Did you have, like, how quickly did it go from you were making CDs and stuff like that and doing live stuff to now you're in movies, TV, that kind of stuff? Did that happen kind of quickly too?
Well, on and off different things were happening. We'd be sitting somewhere, and all of a sudden, you'd watch a commercial come on TV, and we were in the commercial. It's like, wait a second, or you couldn't walk through a mall, without hearing it somewhere. It was like you'd go in, Christmas Cannon would be in Macy's, and you'd walk in there. And when you first started, if you were flying somewhere, you'd get on people like, y'all in a band. Mm-hmm. And you tell them, and maybe 1 out of 20 people would go, oh, I think I heard you. And now it's like 1 out of 20 people might not know who you are. It's like everybody seems to know. So we just watched it all go. When the Wizards and Winter song came out, and that guy was one of the first people to program a house's Christmas lights to Christmas music, it was that. And then it just, every news channel, you'd be sitting in a hotel on your day off, be like, no matter where you were, they were showing this guy's house and that song. It would just, little by little, things like that stumbled. You're watching NFL, and you'd hear, dun, 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 dun. It's like, this is crazy. I mean, I just got up at noon. I'm in the tour bus. I'm getting ready for the matinee, and Fox, I'm watching what little football I can, and your song is there with Terry Bradshaw, and you're like, this is really pretty crazy. And it happened a lot like that, where you didn't know, or you didn't expect it.
I remember early on when this thing really started kicking
What
in,
he said.
and we were doing a lot of the press, and I'd be on the phone doing radio, and people would look at me and go, wow, your English is pretty good. Wow. Well, you're from Siberia, right? Yeah, Siberia, Brooklyn. Stop it. Because really, nobody knew what it was.
And it would usually be,
everybody knew, like Chris just said, everybody knew what it was. It's crazy, dude. Every time, like Chris said, you put on any channel on the
thought
TV,
y'all
Elon Musk programmed his car to Wizards in Winter. That brother owes me a car.
Yeah, seriously.
Listen, if he programs like his spaceship, I'll be really happy.
He's getting those satellites in space
on Mars or wherever he's going.
Oh man, you don't want to go to Mars. He's not planning on bringing anybody back alive from Mars. Trust me. When you guys were younger and you were kind of getting into music, what was your first instrument that you picked up? Like, what was the first thing that got you to where you are today?
Well, for me, it was very simple. 1964, Ed Sullivan Show, the Beatles came on. Done.
Yeah.
And if you talk to anybody my age or a little bit older, 90% of us will say the same thing. I've heard Joe Walsh say it. I've heard anybody from who was old enough to watch that and be completely captivated by what those four lads from Liverpool did. They changed the world.
Right.
But I was in my feety pajamas, 2 years old. My granddaddy had a guitar over in the corner of the house, and I was watching Paul McCartney and John Lennon and George Harrison and Ringo, and I started strumming the guitar. And much to my parents' chagrin, it never left the inner part of my soul and my heart. I was on a trajectory with whether I ever made a dime or had any success as a musician. I had a love affair with that thing from the jump, and I've never let go of that.
It was pretty much the same thing. I mean, I would sit there listening to the Beatles music, and I would always tend to go towards the more heavy songs. And then one year my neighbor bought me the Wings Over America record for Christmas. And that was really like my first record where I heard like heavy things and all kinds of music. And then I think the following year I'd gotten Kiss Alive. I mean, I sang Help at 5 for show and tell in school. So it's probably the only thing I ever thought I wanted to do. And I'm lucky that it happened because I planned on nothing else happening in my life. So if I didn't do what I was doing, I'd probably be waiting to clean this hotel room tomorrow, when whoever was in it checked out. So it's like, I was very lucky that I put all my eggs in that basket. I started playing the drums. My brother played the drums. My family didn't have a lot of money. So I had to get the drum pads because they were the cheapest. But the drummers hate me when they say this. I wanted to write music, not play drums. And they were like, But I wanted the guitar, and my family did whatever it could to get me a guitar. And I just started playing. And I mean, I was fortunate enough to start working with Paul when I was 17 years old. And it's kind of funny because I met Al, I think, for the first time when I was 16. And in the New York scene, Al was like the first one of us around our generation that quote unquote made it, because when Al got into Cooper, we were all like, wow, Pitrelli got the Alice Cooper gig. So he was the first one to really get out into the real world amongst the people I knew in our club scene that weren't like the older bands at the time, which were the Twisted Sisters and some other ones. But and then all of a sudden in 95, me and Al were in the same band together, and it hasn't stopped since then. So it just it happened. We both, I always believe that, there's a lot of luck and timing, and you get in the right place at the right time. You got to bust your butt to get there. But we had a lot of everything just kind of interlocked, and it all came around the same thing. And for me, like I said, I started working with Paul when I was 17, and I really hadn't left since then. So I found a really good home at a very young age in this business. And he protected us. When we went on the road with Sabotage or something, there are situations when you didn't always make money, but Paul always made sure that none of us were ever stranded, nothing ever went wrong. Like he's like, I will take care of anything that goes wrong. And that It's difficult in this business because most bands, will have opportunities where they get left on their own. And we were blessed with somebody like Paul that made sure that he always had our back, and that's something that I think led me towards like, well, I'm going to be a soldier in this guy's army till the last day I play guitar. And that's where I've been.
And when you have somebody like that who does have your back, it allows you to be full on creative. You don't have to worry about like where you're going to be, where you're going to go next. There's somebody else that has it, so you can concentrate on your art.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, Paul was a really interesting guy, like Chris was just saying. And life is a really interesting journey. Mm-hmm. So Chris has been working for Paul forever. I randomly met Paul in 1985. Like, I was working with this one artist who was managed by the management company that Paul was working for. And we accidentally met one day. And he's like, man, I can't believe you guys ended up, playing his band, whatever it was. But if I didn't do that one thing in my life, I wouldn't have met Paul back then. Right. And in 85, he said, one of these days we're going to work together, And, like everybody in New York City says, we're going to get together, let's, break bread, make some music. Okay. Well, Paul, he didn't say anything he wasn't going to do or didn't mean. And you fast forward to 10 years that Chris is just talking about, he said, we kept in touch over the years. Hey, whatever. But he said, listen, why don't you come into the studio? I got this idea I'm working on. I wouldn't mind you putting some ears on it.
Yes.
Now, if I didn't meet him 10 years accidentally, maybe he wouldn't have called me that 10 years later. Chris and I wouldn't have been in the same room together, with the Mountain King, Oliver, and Middleton, and Plate, and Zach, and, and Dave Whitman, all these people that were just kind of like accidentally, circuitously ended up at that one microcosm. And not to sound like really trippy, but it is really weird.
Yeah.
If you take one of those components out, we're not having this conversation today.
Right.
You follow me?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Paul kind of saw the big picture across the board, as far as the talent he wanted to surround himself with, the music that he was writing, the vision of making a great art form that didn't exist before, and it's been really, if you sit back and try to figure it all out, you really can. I mean, a lot of it's chance, a lot of it's luck, and a lot of it was him seeing a lot of things that Chris and I, that's not what we do. We play guitar.
Yeah.
Paul was Paul, dude, in a lot of ways. Like, he was our big brother, our best friend, our boss, our producer, our mentor. I'll miss him, and I know I'm speaking for Chris as well, until I close my eyes for the last time. But I can't help but smile and say, you nailed it. And all is good down here. You rest easy. We got you right now.
That's beautiful, man.
I remember the very first time that Al showed up, because he didn't really have Al had a different kind of, it wasn't even an audition. We were in the studio doing Dead Winter Dead, and Paul was we were looking for the second guitar player to play with me in Sabotage. And I don't remember how it came about exactly, but we were like, Al Pitrelli's coming to play, and he just came in to play in the studio. His basic quote unquote, if you want to even say audition, was to show up and play. And I'm sitting there in the studio lounge, and I saw Al, and we started talking, and he was like, you want to get out of here for a minute? I'm like, why? We went down the road, and Al went, and he got a shot. And he's like, I got to take the edge off. And I'm looking at him, I'm going, this is awesome. Like, I'm going to love this kind of band. And we went up there, and he had a Les Paul, and I remember everything. He had his Les Paul, and he had a Morley wah-wah pedal. Mm-hmm. And he goes into this control room and plugs into
I was probably wearing the same outfit I'm wearing right now,
And it was one of the most
mind-blowing
guitar. It was one of the most mind-blowing guitar things I'd ever seen in my life. Because I got to watch.
Chris is like one of my favorite guitar players ever. He crushes it. Together, we were able to help the sound. You see, it's different playing guitar with Siberian Orchestra than it's playing with a different, like your normal. I hate to say the word normal again, but your traditional rock band.
Yeah.
Paul writes these incredible stories. Our job becomes to help create the underscoring of them. You follow me?
Yeah.
So it's not gratuitous shredding. It's not traditional rock and roll, but there's a lot of orchestration. There's a lot of keyboards. There's a lot of string instruments, a lot of brass instruments. The way that we have to approach playing the guitar in this ensemble is completely different, because it's like traditional metal or rock guitar rhythm parts don't work.
Right.
Solos aren't really just solos. It's got to be a continuation of the thought that the singer was expressing as the character that Paul created.
Right.
So it really is, a lot of people listen to it and go, that's awesome, but I don't really think they understand the creation of it. Like, it's a really different thing. And if Chris and I, we both came from such different backgrounds that we kind of, fill in the spaces together, as is everybody else in the organization. So, if I'm having trouble with a more aggressive part, he's got it covered. If Paul's looking for just some subtle little kind of nuance to like move the song along, I got it covered. That's, Keith Richards said a long time ago in an interview that, him and Ronnie Wood are like really good guitar players individually, but together they're unstoppable. That's what we, were part of going back to 95, because it was for the bigger picture, the song and the story. Every one of Paul's records had a story to it. So we just became almost like the John Williams or the Hans Zimmers of guitar player, just coming up with cool parts, just like how Mutt Lange used to do with Def Leppard and all those incredible records.
Right.
Underscoring themes, parts, movement. You don't really notice them unless they're not there, and then something about the song isn't really as good anymore.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no. Did you guys feel any kind of intimidation coming in, like the transition between like what you just said from like a traditional rock band to like more storytelling and being more involved in the process, or were you just super excited to do it?
I think it was more like, what are people going to think when they see me in a tuxedo? we all looked at all the sabotaging guys. We looked at each other like, what are we about to do? And we were on this stage, and that was at the time when we had a lot of dry ice, and there was we're in a theater, and everybody's in the front row, which is literally right, and you're watching this dry ice roll into this 85-year-old lady. You're like, oh my God, Grandma, I'm sorry. And you're like, you don't know what to do. But it
was, Chris had mentioned, I was playing with Alice Cooper back in 88, 89, 90, I think, give or take, right? So that was my real first introduction to theatrical presentation of rock and roll. I mean, when I was a kid, I must have been in like junior high, and all we heard about was this dude named Alice, first of all, which was weird.
Right.
And at a show where I grew up on Long Island, Nassau Coliseum, he put his head in the guillotine, he chopped his head off, and the next year he hung himself, and this was like the Antichrist to my parents, so I definitely wanted more of that. You know what I mean? But when I got to be his MD years ago, I watched the man like put the straitjacket on and become Dwight Fry in the Ballad of Dwight Fry, or in I Love the Dead, and all these things. So I was like, this is just crazy. He was no longer Alice; he became the character that he was portraying. So I had a front row seat at one of the pioneers of doing that. So then you move forward, and when Paul was writing the earlier Sabotage records, and he was collaborating with John Oliva, he was writing rock operas in tradition of like, what the Who did with Tommy, what Andrew Lloyd Webber did, especially, with Jesus Christ Superstar.
Right.
Pink Floyd's The Wall, then you fast forward, Queensryche, a lot of these bands were writing rock operas. You got to understand, growing up in the 60s, most of the music that was on the radio or on TV was like those the show tunes.
Yeah.
Like West Side Story, The King and I, South Pacific, Jesus Christ Superstar, like I said, The Sound of Music. So all the songs individually were amazing, but when you plugged them all back into each other, the whole story was really mesmerizing. Yeah. So I kind of had an okay background on that. So when Paul would like explain the stories to us before we ever went in the studio, you kind of get into his head, get into the mindset of like, how am I going to bring this character to life? What can I do soundtrack? Again, just like if you're scoring a film. Sure. Sometimes it would be with a guitar in my lap. Sometimes it would be with a mandolin. A pedal steel. Sometimes, I'd sit behind a keyboard. If Paul wanted a real barroom kind of thing, I'd get behind a Hammond and bring that to life. So all of us were responsible for adding our little coloration to really make the story, come to life musically. And then when you factor in his lyrics and the way that he would produce vocals, damn, that's really an incredible artist.
Paul he had a vision in his mind for every part of the record, and it'd be interesting to watch him in the studio because Paul would have New York Times, about 5 different books, and he'd have his notepad, and he'd have a steak and a spoon and a knife and something, and he'd be eating and talking and dealing with this and that, and playing a guitar part, and you would hit this tiniest little scratch. He'd be like, wait, stop. He's like, you got to get your hand and put it in some warm water. If you put your hand in this warm water, it'll stop that scratching. I'm like, how did you notice that in the middle of talking about the Russian Revolution, checking out the stock market, eating a steak? Like, where did that come? It's like, and you'd think that you were going to get through, but he was just constantly on every little detail, and it was really special to watch it happen. It was funny in a way because it was so over the top, but it was all Paul. He'd have a giant 2-liter bottle of soda that he would crunch to hold up because he didn't want to pour a cup onto the board and kill a $2 million sound studio board. But then he would spill it all over himself, and he'd be like, "All right, well, you didn't ruin the board, but you just spilled soda on yourself." He was so lovable and so just Paul. It was so different. I remember the first time I thought I was done recording rhythms for a song once. And I did these rhythms. I thought I was finished. And Paul goes, "You're not done yet." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Did you do the clean telly?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" And I never heard this concept before. He had you play a completely clean Telecaster track just for the noise of the pick hitting the strings in every song that you did. And he goes, "I don't know if I'm going to need it, but I'm going to have it." And you would do that, and he just would bring out the picking in it. It was the first I ever realized that when I was done, I wasn't done. It was the introduction to that. It was like, you're never finished.
Oh, and there was a lot
records were never done with Paul until they were in the store. Yeah.
He would pay attention to details that I didn't even know existed. You know, I mean, I'd play a solo, and he's like, "Yeah, let's try to beat it." And I'd spend like 3 days trying to beat the solo, playing the exact same notes. And he's like, "Yeah, but did you hear the one thing you did on that one note?" I'm like, "No, I can't hear anything anymore." You know, and you learn to trust him blindly because his ears were that good to where like subtlety and nuance became the epicenter of what he considered technique. Didn't matter how many notes you played. What mattered is how much of your life did you put inside of each one of those notes.
Wow.
You follow me? And
Yeah.
there was one time where I was in the studio and I'd quit smoking for about a year. And he had me doing some like blues soul. And he's like, "This is terrible." And he goes, because when he's there's no nicotine left in your playing, like that barroom kind of like snotty 70s Leslie West, Johnny Winter kind of thing. And he goes, "I will buy you new lungs. Just please start smoking."
Oh my God, that's incredible.
I love him to death. I miss him so much, dude. But listen, it's on record, and he created the.
And we were lucky that we weren't the singers, because the singers, he really got on every single word the way he wanted the singer to sing it. And I would remember just watching him with John Oliva. John would sing a line 10 times, and John would be at the point where he couldn't tell the difference between the way Paul wanted and did it. And when John and Paul had always worked out in some kind of a way where they'd leave the studio, they'd come back in, and I'd be like, "How much you have to give him this time?" And Oliva would have like $200 more in his pocket, and he would get the extra couple vocal tracks before he ran back home to get to the bar. It's like, it's so funny.
Listen, when Paul developed tunnel vision on how his vision of the song was, no changing it.
It seems like when you're doing it live, obviously it's just this flawless, effortless machine that you guys are going through. But have there been times like during a live performance where something happens and you guys have to quickly adapt or like change stuff up?
Oh yeah.
What is that like? Do you guys have
I'll go first on this one. This is like my best story ever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jumping like a 25-year-old. In midair, realizing I'm 45. And I snapped my ACL and broke my leg in the middle of a guitar solo. And didn't drop a note playing.
Oh my God, dude.
Oh yeah, dude. And I remember Paul was at opening night with me that night. He was at the front of the house, and I just saw his head kind of go like this, like when your dog's confused.
Yeah.
Like, I was having a real introspective moment because I immediately was holding this one note, and I sat down. I was like, "Oh man, that hurt." I just thought, like, I landed wrong. Oh, that was a stupid thing to do. All right. And I stood up, and my leg kind of wasn't connected anymore because the ACL was blown up.
Holy shit.
Boom! Face plant on the stage in the dark. It dragged me off, put me on a bar stool, and now, like, reality's kicking in because my leg is swelling up like a watermelon.
Right.
And they're just like, "Okay, you go here, you do this, and just somebody plays something, keep going. Because why? The show's more important."
In-ear fell on the ground the other day. I had no sound. So I'm listening to the PA running around the stage trying to hear the house because I had no sound. And there's counts where we're like getting counts in our ears. And it's Al's voice too. 1, 2, 3. There's no Al. And I'm standing up there going, "What do I do?" And I'm having to like make sure I play it in time. So I just went to the front of the stage and I looked back at everybody and I was like, "Pray to God." And I hit the counts without any in-ears in my ear because my in-ear pack was on the other side of the stage on the ground. But it's things like that, you have to be ready for.
We rehearse so much that muscle memory will kick in even when you get injured. Like Chris is saying, even when your in-ears fall out. Some nights, like, it's so loud in the in-ears and there's so much information going through that I actually can't hear anything anymore.
Wow.
You know, there's a couple seconds where I'll look down at the guitar. I was like, well, I'm on the 5th fret. This should be the right chord. You know, until I have a chance to turn my back down and kind of give my ears a little bit of a break just to decompress so I can, again, like hear where my pitch is.
Yeah.
So our job is to rehearse so much that even when something goes wrong, the audience will never know it went wrong because everybody deserves a perfect first show. We had our first show in Council Bluffs. Okay. When I get to wherever, let's say Spokane next week, it might be my 10th show, but it's going to be Spokane's first show.
Right.
And they deserve the energy and the excitement and the enthusiasm and the newness of a first show and all that goes into that. You know, never once will Chris and I go on stage after doing 30, 40 shows. We're like, oh, God, we live for this stuff. And it's our job to make sure that the band is spot on every show.
Yeah.
Because I don't want anybody walking out of the arena saying, you know, man, they weren't that good this year. That would break my heart.
Yeah.
You know, not while I'm still breathing. It's not going to happen. So, yeah, stuff happens all the time. The audience will never know it. I promise you.
That's still blowing my mind that you broke your leg on stage and just kept
well,
going through it. I'd be
now
done.
People say, hey,
I'd be
good
out.
luck, break a leg. I'm like, no.
That's right. Tom said it before
Done
you
that.
guys came on air, and you were like,
He didn't even get he didn't get it worked on until the tour was over. So he sat there in pain for the whole tour, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. And so he finished it, and we would see the YouTubes of him sitting in the chair, and they made it through the whole tour, and that's when he got the leg worked on when we were done.
Yeah, that hurt more than when I broke it.
yeah.
Surgery and rehab, no bueno. But anyway, that's
Yeah.
you know, that is what it is. But listen, this is what we do. This is what we love. I'll stop playing when I'm dead.
Yeah,
and
man.
then it's over. Other than that, I'm having the time of my life out here.
You guys have obviously been everywhere. Is there a favorite place that you look forward to going back to every year?
I think Omaha for me.
No, you know what? That really depends because. Yeah, I mean that's so you look forward to seeing everybody and getting going. I mean that's where I see the show for the first time. I can get the lighting designs in my emails and look at them. I don't want to see them. I want to watch the erector set. For me, that's what I love watching the crew come in and work and you know the different cities. Every city has a personality, so it's hard to pick any one of them. You know, you just we just hope that everybody gets to and from the show safe. So I always hope for nice weather so that the fans don't, have trouble driving and this and that. I mean, that's more where your concerns are when it comes down to that. But, every place you go has a personality. So, but in the beginning, like Al said, the Nebraska, Omaha, or we're actually in Iowa, we're rehearsing. That's where you look forward to going because that's where it's like the first day at school. The kids get together and we haven't seen each other in a year. And Al will be like, "Look at this telly I just got." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'll see your telly and I'll show you this SG." And we're like, it's not new pairs of jeans, it's a different guitar. It's kind of like that.
I gotta ask you guys
that's
about
a really fun thing. Like Chris just nailed it. He's like, it's the first day back at school in like 10th grade. Seeing all your buddies. How was your summer? How was this? How let's get back to it. But I mean, there's venues all over the country. I mean, one of my favorites. I mean, I love them all, but historically, one of my favorites that I get to go to is the one in Ontario because it's on, where Cal Jam was when I was a kid.
Right.
And I'll talk about that, sometimes as I'm introducing the band, I'll say, here on this hallowed ground of Cal Jam, and everybody at the 55 goes, "What?" I'm like, "Oh man, I'm so old, dude." Because as a kid, it was Aerosmith, it was Ted Nugent, it was Hard, it was Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush, all that raceway out in the desert, and that's where we are,
Right.
So we used to read about it because you only had Hit Parade and Kerrang magazine back in the 70s. That's the only way you heard anything about these shows.
Yeah.
And I remember like standing in that spot going, this is really religious for me right now. It's kind of cool.
Is there anybody that you guys would love to work with that you haven't gotten to yet?
For me, I always wanted to play Melissa once with Greg Allman.
That's a great fucking song. Love that song.
That's the soundtrack of my life, dude.
Yeah.
I got to sit with him for a while. A couple months before he passed, just a great guy. He paid me a compliment saying he loved the work that I've done. I was like, dude, you're a big reason why I am why I am.
Right.
And we didn't have a chance to ever sit down and play a song with him, but I got to hang with him for a minute, and that was kind of cool.
We had a lot of really awesome special guests come in with TSO. If I said, "Oh, I'd love to work with Steven Tyler," all of a sudden one day, Steven Tyler shows up in the sound check and you're like, really? It's like Paul made so many of these things happen with us that I'm playing Pinball Wizard with Robert Daltrey, and as a kid you just wanted to be able to go see a Who concert, not having him show up and play his music with you. It's just been It's been crazy. I don't really look at things I would want to do. I've done more than I ever thought I could do. So for me to come up with a list of like, I'd love to do this, it's like it's all mostly checked off. So it's like I don't even know. I just take it as it comes now, and I just feel really happy to be able to keep doing it.
We have a ton of viewers. One of them just said the Denver shows were incredible, Al.
Oh, good. That $20 I paid him went well.
Yeah.
No, dude, listen. Denver has been an incredible home for us for years. A lot of great friends over there. Listen, I'm glad that people are enjoying the shows because they have to notice the extra energy that's going on stage and the excitement and how grateful we are to be back doing what we love to do so much.
Yeah.
You know, like I would say, you know, every year I'll say, as I'm closing out the show, all right, y'all, see you in 363 days, you know. And last time I left Denver in 19, that's what I said. You know, who would have thought that would have been put on pause and we wouldn't have not that we ever took it for granted, you know, but I always figured, okay, if we do a good job, they invite us back. I'm golden to come through, you know, the Pepsi Center every year. Well, like they just changed the name of it, you know, because what I do, I have a day off in Denver. I go shopping, you know, I know my way around. I got a lot of friends there. I go to the Pepsi Center, blow it up twice, 2 sold out shows. It was awesome. And again, when you love something so much and it's taken away from you, when you have it back in your hands, brother, you savor it, you love it that much more and you're that much more protective of it. Absolutely. So I think that the understanding between the people on stage and the folks in the audience I refer to as my repeat offenders, the ones who come back every year, you know, there was a certain looking at each other's eyes saying, thank God we're back doing this. I miss you all, you know.
Yeah, man. Somebody had said
that's a different part of rock and roll that I've never experienced and I'm grateful to have now.
Another fan of yours said, love seeing Joan Jett and Paul Rogers with TSO as well. Yeah. That must have been fucking awesome.
Well, listen, Bad Company was the soundtrack of my life.
Yep.
In the 70s, you know?
We had Joan Jett was at the when we played the Garden. We did I Love Rock and Roll.
He loves to say
there, but I always felt I gotta be honest, I felt guilty. I felt guilty about one thing with touring with TSO, and I gotta tell you what that is. TSO East always got to play Long Island, and Al has always been out on the TSO West one. And every time we go to Long Island, and I was like, I got family show, and I always felt, you know, because I know, you know, that's where he grew up, and that was always like the guilty thing. I'm like, we're playing Nassau Coliseum, and Al's in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I just that was like a guilty thing where I wanted to be able to like, can we get on a plane today and we'll switch, you know, and you can come play your hometown, your home city.
Yeah, have you guys ever thought about doing it?
That's sweet, dude. But brother, the fact that the band is playing in my hometown venue, close enough, you know?
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
But that was one situation about the East and West because there's, you know, there's just cities
every time
that,
he
you
says
know,
playing the Garden, I'm like this. You know. But listen, love and respect.
Yeah, but we get a lot of
tore that place up. We're good. You notice why I keep ducking off cameras because for some reason my phone's freaking out, so I got to put my ear next to the thing to hear what you're all saying. Or invent a question, I'll answer whatever I want.
You're doing great, man. You guys are doing great. So I gotta ask you both personally, like previous to doing this, do you guys remember like your first paid gig, like something that like the first time you got actual like real money for doing what you love?
Oh yeah, buddy. All right. So 1976. Whatever my high school or junior high band was at the time, got hired to play for the Marine Corps rugby dance.
Wow.
Okay. And they asked, can you play Born to Be Wild? And, you know, at 16 years old, I said, yeah, absolutely. Play Born to Be Wild. And then they said, could you play it again? We just played it. He's like, no, can you play it again? I mean, you got 30 jarheads, literally Marines. 75 brothers, but I think I played that song 18 times that night for $25.
Holy shit!
Wow,
that's the customer's awesome. Always right?
It's like $1.20 a time.
Yeah,
and you know, and they were like starting like it was like a mini mosh pit with rugby players. I'm like, this is gonna go wrong real quick.
Oh God, that's incredible. What's the roughest it ever got?
One more time.
I said, what's the roughest it ever got?
At that show?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean any show.
Oh gosh, I mean, there's some nights and some like some of the outdoor concerts in Europe, the festivals back in the day that would get really squirrely in some countries. I mean, I remember, people getting trampled and, I don't know. There were some bad shows where bad things happened and, not on stage, but looking out into the audience, like people can get crazy. I mean, they get excited and caught up in the moment, and that's like a really exciting thing. But sometimes that can go. You put too many people in an area with no kind of parameters. Back in the day, you used to get a little squirrely like that,
Yeah, it's weird, man. I feel like that kind of stuff did happen back in the day, but you didn't really hear too much about it. And now, anytime there's like a concert with like a famous,
there was no internet back then. Now everything's instant on your cell phone.
Yeah.
So like bad things happen. Nobody really heard about it. Regionally or locally, you would hear about stuff. But now with the advent of these things, not only like. There's good and bad to technology. Like you hear about, a couple people getting injured at a concert. Now really, like that's been going on for 40 years, dude. Not that that's a good thing, but you're only hearing about it now.
Yeah.
The other thing with these things is it made us play better as musicians because there's no such thing as having a bad night ever again at a live rock show.
Right.
I would have missed a note in 1988. Oops.
Yeah.
Now it's on YouTube forever. That's when people get talk about, hey, he stinks. Like really.
Oh my God, they did it to fucking McCartney the other night when he was at the. I was saying they did it to McCartney the other night. Of all people, he was at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's singing with Dave Grohl, and he like missed a note. And on the internet, it was just like McCartney's lost it. He can't sing anymore. He's got to quit or whatever. And it's like, dude, it's fucking Paul McCartney.
Dude, he wrote Eleanor Rigby. Shut up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Really?
I'm like,
and it's
shit.
funny because I was watching that last night. I was sitting here on the bus, and I clicked it on.
Yeah.
And it just happened to come on with Carole King doing You Got a Friend. Now, the Tapestry album, 1971, I was like 10 years old or whatever I was back then, Right. And that is like literally like, again, part of the soundtrack of my life. And I'm watching her, and Carol's got to be in her late 70s now. And, just a little frail, but I actually kind of got a little bit emotional watching her sing it because the woman is still singing that song that meant so much to me 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And how dare anybody talk about Sir Paul?
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been a little kind of like a little too judgmental, like somebody hits the wrong note or whatever. Yeah. This is live music. And who are you to say anything about Paul McCartney or any of these people that have been with us for 50 years?
Yeah, I agree, man. It's fucking wild that anybody has the audacity to do that kind of shit, especially when you know that they haven't doing anything. You're like,
especially
you're working at a
when we're
fucking
growing up in an age where these younger people, not all of them, but like auto-tune has become like their version of my reverb when I was a kid.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I remember seeing it was like years ago, but they were doing, I think they were celebrating McCartney and Ringo at the VMAs or something like that, and every artist before them was coming up, and they had like giant fucking trapeze acts and flames and auto-tune and all this other shit. And then Ringo and Paul just walk out on stage and they're literally just singing these awesome songs and the crowd goes wild. I'm like, no theatrics, no, there's no need for any of that stuff. It's just pure talent and it's amazing.
No, brother, he puts an acoustic guitar in his lap and he goes, yesterday, you're done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know. It's incredible.
I mean, did you watch the McCartney 3-2-1 documentary?
Absolutely. So fucking good.
Dude, the question of all questions that Rick Rubin asked him was like, these songs are so memorable. How did you write them to be so memorable? He goes, I had to remember them.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, that is amazing.
If it were only that simple, But listen, that's, going back to the front of our conversation, if you put on a particular Beatles song, if you put on a particular Carole King song, every time I hear This Christmas by Donny Hathaway or whatever it is, or something that Gladys Knight would sing as a kid, it takes me somewhere when I was little.
Yeah, same.
It takes me someplace. That's what Paul created. That's what the O'Neill family is kind of perpetuating. The fact that, we're talking about something that's 25 years old this year. Right. And it's still relevant and it's still important, and the fact that I'm still part of it, I'm proud of that. And I just wanted to grow up. I wanted to become a music form like all the greats that we talked about, never putting us in the categories of the Beatles or Carole King or any of that. But just if people celebrate this work for years to come, then my job here on earth is done and I'm good.
Oh yeah, they absolutely will be. I mean, they're already doing it now. It's everywhere. That's the most amazing thing about this kind of stuff is how quickly it blew up and how amazing you guys are, how quickly you all put it together. And you're making stuff that lasts. And that I feel like is something that every artist wants, and you guys have already achieved.
Yeah, you don't realize it when you're young. It's when you get older that you live for longevity.
Yeah.
You know, and I appreciate you saying that, man, because, you know, I can tell it's coming from your heart. And again, it's something that, like, you know, my 5-year-old daughter and my 36-year-old son, you know, both enjoy.
Yeah.
You know, they come from different walks, different generations, different parts of my life, you know.
Yeah.
But when it comes time for daddy doing what daddy does, they all just enjoy it, you know. And, and you know, kids, they're like, oh, this is so lame. Daddy, you're so old, you know, which is true about the old part. But they genuinely like it because it is cool.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I hear you, man. Tom, do you want to run through more audience questions before I get to the last 2 questions?
Yeah, I'd love to. We actually have somebody say, what about the simultaneous stages in Germany? They thought that was amazing. And we just have a lot of people tuning in from all over the country just saying how much they love you. Sacramento, Fresno, San Jose. Proud of the role that Cleveland played in the career of TSO. And Holly Harshman also says, we'll see you again in San Jose. Elaine says hi. So,
this one
I can't wait, dude. Next week, right?
This one is one of my favorite comments somebody made. I threw it up before, but somebody said 2010 was my. Oh wait, no, that's not it. But that's a nice one too, by the way. Sorry, guy. Where's
2010 was my first show in Cincinnati East. Loved it. Took my 10-year-old daughter. 2011, Al brought the West guys to Cincinnati. Saw the BLN with both of you, which was great.
This one I think is hilarious. I mean, just great. This guy said, my first ever TSO show was in the wake of a blizzard here in Boston. My uncle's car got plowed in during the show.
Oh, sorry, dude.
That's dedication, though, man. That's fucking awesome.
Listen, you got to think about us touring in the winter. You know, that can get a little squirrely on all sides. You know, not only for, you know, the folks in the audience, you know, always be careful. But, you know, I got like, you know, 20 tractor trailers and a dozen buses going through the Rocky Mountains, you know.
Wow.
You know, drivers are coming out, brother, we're putting chains on, boss, hang in there. I'm like, okay, here we go. You know, never missed a show, never missed a downbeat. We showed up in Kansas City after a bad storm one night, and the production manager, J-Dot, comes up and he goes, hey, boss. I said, what's up, J-Dot? He said, we lost the truck last night. I was like, is that bad? He goes, well, it's kind of an important truck. I'm like, what was on it? He goes, the stage.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, that's true. He goes, don't worry about it. I got it. I'm like, what do you mean? You're going to just come up with like, you know, a 40 by 70 stage where? At Walmart?
Right.
Well, somehow they pulled the rabbit out of their hat. They found enough to put the staging together. The show went off on the downbeat when it was supposed to at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, mind you. You know, without all crew, you know, we can talk about guitars and all music and all that stuff a lot, but I will always tip my hat and take time out to talk about how incredible our crew is because it's like uphill what waits on them running. You know, it's amazing what they can do, and I'd never be able to do my job without any of them. You know, so that's why we introduce them every night at every show because we're nothing without them, and they love it as much as we do. You know, some have been with it as long as I have.
That's awesome, dude.
Welcome back. Can anybody hear me now?
Yes, this is crystal clear, dude.
The internet's been overwhelmed by people streaming porn or something. I don't know what's going on. I can't make it work. So I went to the phone, but I can't even see now because everybody's so tiny.
So now you're coming in great.
My nighttime readings went in. I see 4 blurry cubes, and I don't even know what you're talking. I don't know what you talked about. I feel like I went to a bar and had 40 shots and I have no idea what anybody's saying just because everything sounded like a bunch of blah blah. But anyway,
that's perfect.
I think you described the essence of Dystopia Tonight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to come in and make sure I seem real natural to everybody here.
Lorena Ryber says, "Hang in there, Chris."
Huh?
Lorena Ryber says, "Hang in there, Chris. They love you."
I always hang in there. So,
but
now I lost. I have to put the phone up because I can't hear. I have no way of hearing. I want to thank you both. Is he on?
No, he's listening too.
I'm listening closely.
Oh, there he is.
He's listening too.
He disappeared.
Yeah.
We have one more
was
quick
there anything
question
that I needed to answer? I'm going to put this here so you can tell me. Was there anything I missed?
Sorry, go ahead, John.
Oh no, we have one more question. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, it says, will you tour again together like BKN? It was great seeing you guys together. So that's a great question. Will you guys be together again? And where could they catch you when you're both at the same venue?
Well, I mean,
hopefully we get to do like a Beethoven tour again. You know, we've toured anytime it comes down to like a non-Christmas tour, like the spring tours and the summer tours in Europe. You know, it's such a privilege to get back on the stage with Chris, Johnny Lee, and Jeff Plate, because the four of us were there from the jump, you know, and that band has a particular vibe and chemistry to it. It's really awesome. At Christmas time, you know, we're going to be together for the 3 or 4 weeks in Omaha and Council Bluffs rehearsing, and we'll part company because it just got too big that, you know, it's a finite end to this thing on New Year's Eve, you know?
Yeah.
So in order to cover the territory, again, going back to, when was it, 2001, when they cut, or 2000, excuse me, they cut it into 2 bands. Unprecedented, never been done before, you know. And Paul pulled another rabbit out of his hat that stuck. So I can't, you know, we did the stream last year where it was Chris, myself, Jeff, and Johnny, and it was awesome. Just that core band that's been together since '95 playing together. If we ever tour the spring and the summer again, yeah, man, we'll be back. No, right now, the task at hand is to get through this tour and crush it. You know, one thing that this pandemic has taught, I think, all of us, is stop worrying so much about tomorrow and start living in today. Because tomorrow became a big question mark.
Absolutely, man.
You know, and if you're anything like a control freak like I am, don't, once something's out of my control, man, I did not deal with it well. And I've learned to just, well, this one ain't up to me. You know, I'm going to make today the best one I could possibly make. And when I wake up tomorrow, God willing, then I'm going to, you know, so I always say, people say, how are you? Best day ever. This side of the dirt's awesome.
Absolutely, dude.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
What he said.
I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves today, because I really enjoyed our conversation today. I don't know what happened to Chris.
This was fantastic.
You could just quote everything Al said and said Chris said exactly what Al said.
I have 2 more questions for you guys to answer individually. We ask every guest these questions to close out the show. The first one is, if you could go back in time and tell your younger self something that would help you today, what would it be?
Wow.
I would tell my younger self, don't change a thing.
Nice.
Because if you change one thing, your life is completely different.
Right.
You know? I mean,
Butterfly effect.
Regret is a weird thing. If you regret something, that means you want to go back and fix it or redo it, and that might lead your life in a different trajectory. You know, things that you've done wrong, well, yeah, you know, you hurt people, you try not to through your life, you try to, you know, be stand up about a lot of things, but mistakes are made. But if you change one left turn to a right turn in the trajectory of your life, you have a completely different life.
Right.
Yeah.
True, man. What about you, Chris?
Well, I mean, it's really hard for me to say exactly what it would be. I mean, I left Sabotage basically for about a year, and it was to go work with my own brother on something. Now, to turn around and say, would I have done that differently? I went where my heart was telling me to go at the time, and I wound up, you know, exactly where it was home for me. I mean, so I don't really think I would have changed anything. I did what I thought I should have done. You know, there were times when I think that, quote unquote, you know, I was sad about it because I missed time with a good friend of mine that wound up passing away with Chris Oliva in about about a year and a half of his life. I'd missed over that. So I really don't know. I mean, other than that, I think maybe I would have realized just how easy it was to be a lead singer, and probably would have pushed that, because a lot of people, singers don't realize sometimes how much easier their life is than everybody else. I think maybe that would have been it. I was like, man, I don't know about that. So,
right.
Other than that, you know what? Like I said before, I mean, anything that I wanted to do is pretty much, in a lot of ways, and this thing is happened. You know, you can nickel and dime little details of things that you would have done differently all day, but you know, you can also look at things that happen because you did things differently than that nickel and diming. So you could sit there and go, if I changed this, maybe, you know, this wouldn't have happened. So I think that's really a difficult thing to answer with that, you know. Yeah. So I'll stick with the singer one. I would have been a lead singer and wouldn't have had to, you know, carried anything to a club but a microphone.
Nice. John, could I put one? Only because their fans are so ravenous. They love these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
so
we got
I would love to
questions.
Yeah, I would love to get some of them in. Spencer, 1697 asks, are you going to put the When the Crowds Are Gone on a TSO album anytime soon?
You know, there's talk about some of the early Sabbath stuff. But again, over the last 2 years, what's been the main concern is just like getting kind of reorganized and getting back to whatever our sense of new normal is going to be and doing this. So we'll resume conversations and get back into the studio next year. But again, like I said, you know, everybody kind of sit tight. Let's get through this together. You know, let's have a banging year. Let's everybody stay healthy. Let's get through the holidays. Let's get into 2022. And then from there on, I'm up for anything musically.
Sweet.
Exactly what
Absolutely.
Al said.
And then there were just two more statements that I think were great. So Trisha said, been a fan of TSO for 25 years. Thank you for sharing your amazing talent and bringing so much joy to so many people.
Well, you're
thank
so
you. You know,
welcome, darling, and
that's-
thank you for help putting us on the map. I mean, it's folks in the community who made this become what Paul always dreamed it would become. Great art is great art, but boy, did this catch on, So to everybody listening, to everybody watching, to everybody who's been supporting us for like a quarter of a century, which sounds really weird for me to say, but, that's kind of what it is, dude. Man, I am old. Damn.
exactly what Al said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. We have any more fan questions, or you want me to get to the last one?
One more. When will Al ride out on one of the spatulas?
Never.
And then
I told you I'm a control freak. So and what's happened in the past is I was on the fence. I may have said, yeah, I'll go out there one day, until Johnny Lee Middleton went out and got stuck.
wow.
And it was at the end of the show, and we're all singing. I had the audience just clearing out. Folks are sweeping up, and he's still up on the spatula. Hey, brother, get down. So no, I'm going to stay on stage where, God forbid, something goes wrong, I can handle it. If I'm up in the air, not going to happen.
Right. Oh, that's so fucking great, dude.
Yeah, I was in the back of the arena on some giant pogo stick or something like that with a platform, and the thing didn't go back down. And I remember seeing everybody up on the stage. Thank you, good night. And I'm back there with a ladder and a bunch of roadies trying to get me, and crew guys trying to get me down off of this thing. And people are going to their cars. And I'm up there going, "Can you throw my freaking dinner up here?" I was so I think Al's, in some ways, Al's kind of smart with that one. But, yeah, the band actually went through the final bow for real. And I was still up there in the back waiting to down some escape ladder.
That's great, man.
Wow.
Oh God, that's hilarious. All right, so last question is, what had to end in your life, good or bad, that led you to where you are today?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Thank you.
Wrong notes. I had to stop playing wrong notes, or I wouldn't be here. Now, I think that it mostly focus and responsibility. I mean, you start doing what you're doing, and when you're younger, you kind of feel bulletproof sometimes, and I think that whole mindset of you just going and not realizing that every action you do has a circumstance, and I think that for me, it took time. I mean, it takes you time, I could say, to grow up, but it takes time to realize that, everything you do can affect somebody else. And I think that is the thing to me, is when I realized that, that making actions kind of have that. And especially when you're playing on stage and you're touring with a group of people this big, I mean, anything that you do personally affects hundreds of people and affects, millions of fans and this and that. So I think it was one of these things where I realized that, you have a responsibility to focus on. So it's I think I just kind of tried to work harder on my actions. I'm never perfect. No, I don't think anybody will ever be perfect. Some people will listen to that and say something I did last week they didn't like, but I mean, it's like I'm focused on trying to make sure that I do the right things as much as I can. I mean, like I said, no one's perfect, but I think that's what I did.
Awesome, dude.
Great answer.
Well,
Yeah, what about you?
I think for me, what had to end was insecurity and worrying about acceptance by the masses, because you have to be kind of okay with yourself. When I was doing one of the Alice Cooper records, we were working on the Hey Stupid album, and Desmond Child was producing it at the time, in the demo stages, and he and I kind of butted heads a little bit, and he cleared the studio one night and he looked at me and he goes, "Listen, this whole tough guy Brooklyn bravado stuff ain't gonna work with me in the studio." And I was kind of like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You're an artist and you have to be secure enough in yourself to become vulnerable at the drop of a dime to benefit the art form that you're trying to be part of."
Wow.
And I didn't get it at first until I really thought about it. And you have to be very secure and very okay in your own skin to become vulnerable, albeit in the studio, on stage, or whatever performance, or whatever you're doing in your life.
Yeah.
And if you're worried about what everybody around you is thinking, it's almost crippling. You know, you can't be honest musically, or you can't be honest in whatever part of our life we've been talking about with me musically. You can't be honest with your instrument unless you're just okay with that and not worried about what the people are immediately going to think. Is this helping the art form? You know, one of the things that Paul told me, he goes, when you played the guitar solo on "Oh Holy Night" on the record, you know, it's apparent that you had some really troubled years as a kid because you really don't like Christmas, and it's haunting how you approach that thing. And I was only able to do that in the studio with Paul and our engineer Dave Whitman because it's a really sensitive moment. It's a really vulnerable moment. It's like if you listen to any good actor, if you listen to De Niro or Pacino, or anybody who went to the Lee Strasberg Academy of Method Acting, you got to tap into all of that pain and anger or jubilance and joy or whatever, depending on what kind of emotion you want to present. You got to be secure with that. And I think insecurity is the most crippling thing that anybody can suffer from, because all you're worried about is what everybody else is thinking, as opposed to just being truthful and honest in your art. If that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
It does, because Al's answer was that much better than mine, so now my insecurity
I got nothing.
Oh God, that's great. I want to thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time out to come on and to talk to us and stuff. It's been an absolute blast and a pleasure for me, and I can't wait to come see you both when you're in. Well, I think one of you is in Count Basie, and I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know which one, but one of you is at the Count Basie coming up, right?
Where is that?
In New Jersey.
Red Bank, New Jersey.
That's him.
No,
that's you. Red Bank.
In Jersey, the only place that I'm at in Jersey is the Prudential Center.
Oh, okay. Well, then fuck the Count Basie. We'll see you at the Prudential Center.
We're at the Prudential Center. It's the week before Christmas. There's 2 shows there. I want to say it's the 22nd, but I could be wrong, of December. I think the 22nd is there, and the 23rd is DC. I could be wrong.
Oh,
but
sweet.
I did a lot of ads for the tour before it started, so I kind of knew where I was going, and now I forgot. But I think it's the 2nd is Jersey.
Fantastic.
All right, well, brother, sorry about my phone being squirrel, but I enjoyed this time greatly. Much love,
it was great,
respect, and stay safe for the holidays, all right? Hopefully I get to see y'all soon.
Thanks, man.
Thank you too. Thank
Peace,
you
guys.
both. You
Yes,
were
thank you, and
Thanks
everybody
so much.
He said
Take care.
exactly what Al said.
Thanks so much. Have a great night.
What
Take
Al
care,
said.
man.
Thank you. Good night.
Dystopia Tonight.